Hi everyone, it's Paul from This Design That. Today we're going to be taking a look under the hood of a Mamiya RZ67 film back. So you may have seen the recent video I put out of Berlin street photography with the Mamiya RZ67. It was a cool trip. Honestly, the streets of Berlin, they are a little bit too similar to the streets of London, which I live and have worked in for many, many years. But while on that trip, and I also experienced it on the Taipei trip as well, there is something wrong with my Mamiya camera. And I think this is a very common issue. It's basically the film advance lever, the cocking lever. It will skip sometimes when I'm advancing the film. Now there are kind of two areas where this gear stripping could occur. It's either in the body, in the gears, in this cocking lever, or it's on the film back. I would prefer it was on the film back because they are cheaper to replace and you can easily get replacements. I've taken apart the film back, the one that is causing issues, and the reason why I think it is the film back is because I've got two film backs, and this one I don't have any issues when I'm cocking the lever and I'm advancing the film. So I don't think it's anything to do with the gears on the Mamiya. I would like to take apart the Mamiya RZ67 and take a look inside as well. I really do just like taking things apart. I always have done as a kid. The problem is though, is that when I first bought this camera, honestly, they were pretty cheap. I bought this probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I paid £450 with a lens. And a film back. I recently took a look on eBay. The film body alone goes for like 800, sometimes over 1,000. With a lens, 1,200, 1,500. They have really gone up in price. And obviously, probably a big part of that is thanks to all of the channels out there on YouTube that are kind of using film photography, film cameras. They're kind of got, popular again. It's the same with vinyl and cassettes. It feels like, this kind of more analog way of doing things is kind of coming back around in its popularity. So I'm not going to take apart the camera body, and I'm hoping that the issue isn't actually with that. We're just going to have a look up close, and if anything, you can just kind of hopefully learn how these film backs work, how the mechanism works, and hopefully we might actually be able to find like a stripped gear or something that's broken. But anyway, let's take a closer look. You can see that when you close this lid here, it pushes this pin mechanism in here. Okay, so you can see that now that has been engaged. I think it means now that we can start to actually advance the film in it. And I do actually have some film. So there you go, you can hear it. Something is skipping. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if it's here that it's skipping, or if it's actually the cocking lever. So if we advance the film here, so there we go. Now the film has been fully loaded to the first position. You can see the one now would be visible. But I mean, just having a quick inspection, my first thought would have been that it might have been the plastic gears. It doesn't look like there's any stripped gears at all. So I can feel that there's something wrong here, because this isn't moving in sync with this gear. If I do it slowly, see, it's just skipping there. This plastic gear isn't moving nice and smoothly as I'm pulling this. Whereas you can see that this gear doesn't stop moving as I'm pulling this lever. Nice and slowly. You can see that plastic gear is skipping backwards and forwards, but this gear is constantly moving. So if I do a little bit of an inspection, it doesn't actually look like any teeth are missing on this plastic gear. But what we do is we'll just try and have a look underneath here, underneath this plastic gear, and we'll see if we can see anything that is perhaps skipping. Okay, so I've been doing a little bit more troubleshooting, and I think that I've come a little bit closer to the issue. I've noticed that if I lift this plastic gear up, if I just lift it up well, first of all, it's a little bit wobbly. It's a little bit loose. But if I just lift it up, then I can actually continuously cock this lever, which tells me that something is going on here, because if I let go of this, okay, so now I'll take a picture, and now if I cock it, you can see that that plastic gear is moving. Now if I lift it up just slightly, just wiggle it around a little bit, you can see that something disengages, and now I can just continuously rotate it. So something is going on here. I really do need to take this plate off so I can have a look. I'm tempted to. Let's see if I can figure this out a little bit better. You can see that this is the plastic cog here, and just below it, you know, it did feel like something was skipping. These are the only gears that have signs of damage on them. You can see that the actual teeth there, you can see that it's just a little bit worn away. And this is what, I think there's this sort of mechanism here, this like stainless steel mechanism, it grips onto these teeth, and you can see there, you can see where it's just worn away, and it's just created a little groove essentially in the gear, and that I think is what is skipping. Now all of the other gears, they look fine, so it looks like it's a case of replacing this one gear. Now I have no idea how on earth I would find that gear. I don't really want to take apart this mechanism, this top plate. Okay, so I've been faffing around with this for quite a few hours, and I'm actually a little bit embarrassed to say that the issue was just staring right in front of me. And if you can see this part here, I identified that it was something to do with this white gear being a little bit wobbly, and that was what was causing it to skip steps. And actually, this should have a small bearing in it, and this is what stops the whole entire thing from wobbling. So the issue is that, yeah, I'm guessing that the bearing was missing first of all, and if you're wondering why the bearing was missing, it's actually because I lost the dial that goes on this. You can see that you've got this dial here, and this dial, if you unscrew it here, you can see there that there's actually a bearing which will obviously stop it from wiggling. So if I try and wiggle this one, it's got slight movement left and right compared to this one, you know, much more. So there we go. So because this was missing the bearing and this was moving around, it's obviously causing the teeth in the gear to not engage correctly, and that's what was causing the gear to skip, and that's what has caused the wearing of the gear. I need to try and source a bearing for this. I think if I can stick a bearing on here and stop this from moving around, then hopefully the wear on the teeth of the gear is not bad enough that, you know, it's still going to skip. So I've taken some measurements. It looks like this is approximately 8 millimeters, an outside diameter, and it's about 2 to 2.5 millimeters in depth here of bearing. And I'm going to try and source a bearing I can just essentially kind of push in here, and that will hopefully keep it a little bit more stable. Hopefully this has given you a little bit of an idea of kind of how to troubleshoot. I would recommend just taking off this top plastic case. It's just 5 small screws. It's very easy to take off, and then just basically give a visual inspection. What you want to do is when you're moving the cocking lever, you just want to make sure that if you do kind of feel a skip, you want to make sure that these gears are actually stopping moving. If you see that it's skipping but all of these gears are moving perfectly in sync, then it probably tells you that the body has an issue with the gears. If, in like my case, when I was pulling the cocking lever, I could see that this gear was stopping moving on some of the steps, then it's probably going to be an issue with the film back. Now, you don't really need to worry too much about this area. This is really just for the film counter. Really, the film advance mechanism is in here, in these gears. So just give a visual inspection to this area, check all of the gears, all the teeth, make sure there's no issues with it. If you can identify some gear issues like I did, you know, I noticed some wear and tear down there, for instance, then hopefully it will tell you that it is a gear in this film back. And as I said, I'm not too sure how easy it is going to be to replace this gear. I would like to try to. I think it would be a cool project to try and replace this gear. But what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to replace this bearing in here, and I think that will solve the issues. But yeah, hopefully this is just giving you a little bit of insight into maybe how to troubleshoot it. You know, you don't really want to kind of chuck these things away. They're not being made anymore, so you know, as much as we can kind of repair and keep using these brilliant cameras, you know, all the better really. Anyway, stay tuned. Hopefully we are going to get around to fixing this. If anyone knows any kind of repair shops, I'm based in the UK, but yeah, if you know any repair shops, put them in the comments. If you know any places that you can buy replacement gears, or anywhere I could kind of get an idea of where to start even thinking about sourcing a gear for this, please put it in the comments. Greatly appreciated. That is it for today though. Any questions, feel free to ask. Any issues you got with your camera, I'll try and help you fix. But that is it for today. I will end it there.